How to become an expert entrepreneur in just 30 minutes a day. Entrepreneurship is a really vast and expansive profession, and there's a wide range of skills that are required to become great. So, what's interesting about it is that despite all of that, the barriers to entry into entrepreneurship are actually really low. If we file a certificate, we can basically start a business. Whereas if we wanted to be a doctor, we have to go to medical school, pass the exams in order to be able to do that. A lot of professions, we need at least a college degree, sometimes an advanced degree, sometimes additional certifications and everything else. Yet, while being a business owner and an entrepreneur can be one of the most challenging and difficult careers, there are very low barriers to entry. And part of that is because the majority of the risk is really on us. If we go out into business and we start something off and we don't really know what we're doing and we fail, it's pretty much us that bears the brunt of that, right? So we aren't affecting other people's lives in the same way. And so it even though it's surprising, it does make sense in some ways. And so we don't need to be an expert in every single skill in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, but it is important to recognize that we do need to be excellent in some of them. And it's vitally important to at least be competent and aware in many of them. So at least we have an understanding of what we need to do, and we have some options in terms of the way we can fill the gaps for our own information or our own knowledge and skill set. And so that's all fine. But the reality is the best way for us to ensure that we're doing what we can to succeed is we really have to adopt a mindset of continual learning, knowing that entrepreneurship is one of these expansive fields where there's so much to learn and things are moving so quickly that that's only growing. It's not getting easier, it's getting harder. As more tools and more technologies keep being developed, it simplifies some of the things that we need to do, but it complicates the overall idea of being an entrepreneur because there's even more to learn. And so if we embrace a continual learning mindset, that is going to be a really smart way to approach our entrepreneurial journey. And there is no finish line, but we always need to be thinking about how we can grow our skills and improve. And yet the challenge is we've got to be able to do that within the context of running our business at the same time. We have to keep our business up and running. We don't have time to be able to stop the business and say, oh, we're going to go learn this now for weeks or months because I've got to go learn this. So I'll shut my business down. I'll go learn this and then I'll come back, right? Our business has to be able to keep running. At the same time, we've got to be able to carve out time and find an ability where we can get in there and learn the things that we need to do so we can be successful. So it's sort of a catch-22 and a really challenging situation. But there is a solution, there is a way around this, and a way that we can actually make it all work and all come together. So we do limit our potential if we aren't always developing, but obviously we don't have the ability to step back from our business and just develop because we have to run that too. So how can we find the balance so we're actually able to do both and do it effectively? The answer is to focus on development for a very small amount of time each day, but do it consistently every single day as part of our routine. It's amazing because if you think about this in terms of athletics or fitness, if I want to build big muscles, I don't go to the gym one day, work out 4 or 5 hours, and then say, okay, well, now I'm all set. I'm going to have big muscles. First of all, I'd probably end up, bedridden for a week because I wouldn't be able to move. But the other part of it is that isn't the way to build muscle. We need consistency, and we need to do our exercise over and over and over again, but we need to limit the amount we do each day so our body has an opportunity to recover. And it's that work, exertion, rest, recovery cycle that really makes it all work. And actually learning isn't that much different. We can't really cram for everything we need to know as an entrepreneur in a weekend. What we can do is incrementally break it up, and that way we're able to not only learn a lot more, retain a lot more, but over time we get better and better and better at it. So Let's look at how we can become an expert entrepreneur in just 30 minutes a day if we handle our scheduling right. So it all starts off with strategies. So there's some strategies that we can use, and you can pick and choose. You can order them any way you like. You don't have to use them all. But if we employ some of these things in the way that we're working, and we create a custom schedule each week where we do one of these per day, what will happen is over the course of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we'll grow so much that when we look back in 6 months or a year, it'll be remarkable how far we've come. So that is the key to it. And when we do that, we're going to continue to grow week after week and keep getting closer and closer to where we want. So let's talk about the bundles of skills, and then we'll go through a sample sort of weekly schedule. The first one is focused skills development. Okay, this is the first strategy. So we want to identify 1 to 2 key skills that we want to focus on each month that we want to develop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to spend our daily 30 minutes deliberately practicing and improving those specific skills. And so if one of the things that we wanted to learn about is budgeting, then what we would do is really spend that time by learning about what's the right way to do budgeting, and then we would try to actually practice that as well. So we could use, a mock business or even our own business, and we could pretend that we're budgeting for a particular project even if we aren't actually doing it. And if we follow and we find a best practice for how to do this and a case study of something that works, and then we try to employ it, we're not only learning, but now we're also starting to implement. And that it makes a big transition in the way that we learn and our ability to retain information and use it in a way that's applied. And so that's one strategy. Another strategy is the micro learning. So for this, what we're going to do is break down complex topics into bite-sized lessons that we can consume in 5 to 10 minutes, right? And so the idea is, and then we will use the remaining time for reflection and application. So the idea here is the same thing. Let's say that we wanted to learn, search engine optimization. Well, we aren't going to learn that in 5 or 10 minutes, but we know that there are various elements within that. And we can even, search to find this or ask AI or whatever, and it'll give us the pieces. We know that for search engine optimization, one element is finding the right keywords. We know one element is on-page SEO. We know another element is off-page SEO. So if we break this down and we look at the keywords and we say, okay, so this particular thing today, I'm going to look into keywords, and I'm going to spend, 10 or 15 minutes here trying to figure out what are the right strategies for keywords. And then I'm going to use the next 15 minutes thinking about how I would apply those lessons to my own business. How would knowing what I learned about keywords, how would I pick the keywords that I need? And you can use the same one multiple days. Let's say that we start digging into keyword analysis and we realize, geez, there's actually 45 minutes worth of work I need to do on this to understand it. That's fine. But the idea is by breaking it up into micro sections like this, what we could do is we can find one little tidbit that we can focus on, learn it, and then see how we can reflect and apply it in our own business. And when we do that, that's going to be really, really powerful in terms of being able to build up our abilities in that one particular area. And all of these things, the more we do them, the simpler they become, the better we get at them. So the more effective they become as well. The third strategy is habit stacking. So this is a really clever way where we're going to attach that 30-minute skill development session into something that we do as a daily existing habit. So if we say, I'm so busy, I just don't even have time, then we analyze our schedule and we realize, I normally take my morning coffee and I scroll through my, social media feeds. I read a couple of news articles. I look at the sports, information to see what the scores were last night, whatever else. If instead I replace that with one of the things that I want to learn, now I'm still having my coffee, but I'm linking it to this habit. And what will happen is in the very beginning, it will be challenging because, I really want to see what's, what new news and what new gossip there is. But at the end of the day, once we get in the habit and we do it a few times and we realize, wow, this is actually pretty empowering. I have my coffee, and then when I'm done, I've learned something new. I actually feel better about this. So that in and of itself will become its own habit. And so That will allow us to be able to ensure consistency because we're linking it to a habit that we already do. The next strategy is strategic reading. And what I mean by strategic reading is reading high quality business books, articles, or case studies for 15 to 20 minutes. It's remarkable the amount of value that we get from reading and when we read quality stuff. And so whether or not it's a business book that's been highly recommended and everyone's excited about, a lot of times they talk about new trends or habits. Articles, case studies are great because they're things that happen in other businesses that we can look at and apply to ourselves. If we spend 15 to 20 minutes doing that daily and spend the remaining time summarizing those key takeaways. So if we kept like an online document where each day we track what we learned and write it down, there's a transformation that takes place when we learn and then we actually write down what we learned. And we ingrain it deeper into our mind. And so by spending that last 10 minutes, instead of just reading for 30 full minutes, if we spend that last 10 minutes thinking about it, summarizing it, right, those key takeaways, and plan how we can apply them, this is where we're taking things from just passive learning into active learning and implementation. And I hope you're starting to see a pattern here. In all of these things, it's not about sitting back and being educated or learning something just by being immersed in it or listening or paying attention to it. There's value in that. But where the value turns the corner and becomes really exciting and effective is when we start thinking about how we can implement this in our business and how we're going to use it. When we start doing that, that's where the real power comes from. The next strategy is skill-specific exercises. So we can design short targeted exercises to practice whatever essential skills we're interested in. So let's say that we want to learn more strategic thinking. We feel like we're too implementation driven, operations driven, and we want to start thinking more strategically. What we can do is think about a business problem that we've got, or we could even pretend if we needed to. But in general, we usually have plenty of business problems we can work through. Analyze it for 20 minutes. Instead of just trying to come up with the solution, brainstorm solutions for 10 minutes, take a look at it, and then try to weed those solutions down and deepen a few of them. So we start to, again, develop the process and the habit. We're developing these skills. And what will happen is over time, the first time we do it, it'll be hard. The 5th time we do it, it'll be easier. The 10th time we'll get better and better and better. And so even if that one strategy we only use once a week, over the course of a year, we'll have done it 50 times. Imagine how much better you'll be at something after you've done it 50 times. If we want to learn communication skills, we could practice our elevator pitch or try to write a concise business email, right? So if it's communication skills, what we want to do is work on our thinking. How can we convey what we want to say in a way that's persuasive or whatever our goal is out of it, but also succinct without using a lot of additional language or words? And we can practice that. If it's financial acumen we want, we can review financial statements. And again, even if we don't have them for our own business, we can look at financial statements that we can download samples online, and we can take a look at what these financial statements are and see if we can figure out what they mean. See what distinctions we can draw about that business by reviewing them. Practicing budgeting scenarios, right? So all of those things will work. The next strategy is virtual networking, and this is also really powerful. Spend 15 minutes connecting with industry peers or potential mentors on LinkedIn, right? And spend 15 minutes engaging in meaningful conversations or seeking advice. So I can't tell you the number of times where I've meant to stay connected to somebody that I met, and we make the connection and they're there and I see it, and yet I never reach out. I always say, I'm going to reach out. I know we had something in common. I know there's some synergy with our businesses and I really want to do this. But because I don't have a plan for it, it ends up becoming this thing that in the back of my mind is just, it's too much overhead to think about doing it. But if I know that I've got 30 minutes today and my only goal in those 30 minutes is to work on that, work on the networking, then now I've given myself permission to go out and reach out to those few people right now and then engage in meaningful conversations or seek advice or offer advice is another thing we can do there. So if we find that somebody that we wanted to reach out to or connect with was asking questions and we have advice for that, we can reach out and offer that advice as well. Another strategy is reflection and goal setting. Goal setting, oftentimes we either don't do it at all, or we do it, we put it in a folder or in a document, and we never look at it again. If we practice the skill of reflecting on what's going on over the last week or whatever it is, or the last day, and we practice goal setting, so we think about what goals would we realistically want to achieve, we're again going to get better and better and better at it. We use 15 minutes for self-reflection on our recent experiences or lessons learned. And then we take the next 15 minutes and we think about how we can set specific actionable goals to help us improve our own skills. So we could be laying out next week's plan for our 30 minutes a day. Either way, that in and of itself is a skill. Another strategy is micro-mentoring. So we can schedule short, focused mentoring calls, and we can say up front, listen, I'm doing this deliberately to try to give you as much value in a short period of time as I can. I only have a total of 20 minutes or whatever it is. And then you build in that buffer for the few extra minutes. And we can do mentoring calls with experienced entrepreneurs where we either get mentored or we do the mentoring, because both of those have a lot of value. If we are being mentored, we can ask for that session and say, I'm only going to ask for 20 minutes of your time, I promise, because I've got my own agenda of things I need to do. If you can give me 20 minutes, I'd really appreciate it. And vice versa. You could tell somebody, if you're mentoring them, I only have 20 minutes, so I have to be strict about it. And prepare the questions in advance to maximize that 30-minute session. And that way, you can either learn or teach. And again, every time we teach, as little as we might think we know, it's remarkable how much it can be benefit other people, but also the act of doing the teaching changes our relationship with the information, and it actually helps us create new distinctions as well that are helpful to us. Another strategy is skill application challenges, where we set a micro challenge to apply our developing skills in real world situations. So this time we've thought of something that we've been working on, and we're going to use those 30 minutes. We're going to plan, execute, and reflect on the challenges. So if we said, okay, I've been working on budgeting, I'm going to actually now spend this next 15 minutes and I'm going to budget what our next social media campaign is going to be, and just sit down and commit to doing it. It's amazing not only how much development takes place over the process of doing this, but also how much we can accomplish. When we realize what a focused 30 minutes can do for us, it's remarkable. Another strategy is podcast learning. There's tons of content out there. We can listen to high quality business podcasts during other activities and use that 30 minutes to summarize the key points and plan how to implement. So again, if all we do is sit back as a passive listener and take it in, that's one level, and there's value in that. But if we take that and then we take the extra 5 to 10 minutes to write out how we're going to implement, what the key takeaways are, how we're going to implement them, that's where we start to see exponential growth in our skills and abilities. So when we use combinations of all of those with the focus on one per day, and we do that every single day, we can become great entrepreneurs. And it will happen a lot faster than it even seems. And it'll only be a hiccup out of our day in the operations of being able to do things. Now, to break it down even more, I just want to create a sample weekly plan. I'm not going to go into detail on each of the things, but I just want to give you a breakdown of what it could look like on the most impactful skills and uses, in terms of the learning methods and everything else, so we can maximize our growth. So let's say on Monday, we're going to do strategic thinking. So for 15 minutes, we read a case study or a business article. And then for 15 minutes, we analyze and we brainstorm solutions to one of our current business challenges. And that could be our Monday. On Tuesday, let's say we want to work on our financial side of things. So for 10 minutes, we're going to review key financial metrics of our business. And by the way, if we don't have those key financial metrics, that could be the first step. Learning how to set up reports, and metrics. That can be in and of itself its own thing. Once we know how to do it, that becomes easy. But we can review those financial metrics, and then we can spend 20 minutes creating or interpreting those financial statements and figuring out what our next steps are and where our opportunities are in that. On Wednesday, let's say we want to focus on leadership and communication. So we're going to spend 15 minutes listening to a leadership podcast. And then we're going to spend 15 minutes crafting and delivering a compelling elevator pitch. I mean, think about how powerful that would be from one day's accomplishment. You learn about leadership and management in 15 minutes, and then you turn around and convert that into something that you can use in your own business in another 15 minutes. In 30 minutes, you've accomplished quite a lot. And if we do this to start each day, it's even more powerful. Thursday, let's say we do marketing and sales. 20 minutes, we're going to analyze a successful marketing campaign. Now, that could be our own campaign if we have one, that's best. But if not, then we can take a look at marketing campaigns that are successful for other businesses and see if we can break it down. You know, there are all those legendary studies about various businesses and marketing campaigns they've run and how well they've done. Well, we can analyze that and figure out why and how they were so successful. And then for 10 minutes, role play a sales conversation or a customer interaction, right? So these are all things that we could do. On Friday, let's say it's innovation and problem solving. So we can spend 15 minutes on Friday brainstorming innovative solutions to a business problem. So maybe we have a set way we tackle it. We know something we're faced with, and we have a set way that we would tackle it. Instead, let's table that. And let's just brainstorm. Let's keep everything open and on the table, and let's try to just think of rapid fire ideas. Then for 15 minutes, we can research emerging trends in our industry. On Saturday, let's say we're going to do networking and relationship building. And by the way, if you can't do 7 days a week, 5 is okay, but I'm just giving an example. Networking and relationship building. So 30 minutes, we're going to engage with industry peers on LinkedIn. We're going to attend a virtual networking event. We're going to do something where we're moving our relationships down the road, down the field, right? Getting deeper and better and more connected with people. And then on Sunday, we can do reflection and planning. So we can spend 15 minutes reflecting on the week's learnings and progress, not just from what we've done with these sessions, but just overall for the week. What did we learn in our business this week? Let's really think about that. We might even want to write it down because that's going to show the progress we made. And then we want to spend 15 minutes setting specific goals and action items for the coming week. So that way we have a plan going forward as well. And as we start doing this, we get better and better. So by following this structured plan, or if we create our own using all the strategies we laid out, we can systematically develop a wide range of the critical skills that are vital for entrepreneurs. The key here, and this is the part I want to emphasize the most, is the consistency and the focused effort during each 30-minute session. We aren't doing anything else, and we have to commit to doing this every single day we say we're going to, because that's what will build the strength of the habit. And once we get in that habit, it will be easier to maintain that habit than it is to start. And over time, this approach will lead to really significant improvements in our own entrepreneurial capabilities and our own business acumen. And that is very powerful as an entrepreneur. So the takeaway here is that part of our job as entrepreneurs is to find a way to get enough done, even though there's always too much to do. So instead of waiting for, that mystical time freedom to open up to do what we can do to focus on developing our skills, because guess what? Spoiler alert, that free time will never come. If we are waiting to develop our skills, if we're waiting for that opportunity to improve as an entrepreneur, when business slows down or gets more profitable or insert whatever in the blank here, that time will never come. It will always be filled in with anything. We have to have the intention and be deliberate about doing this. And if we strategically integrate that micro development and those micro development activities into our schedule, then what we'll find is that we can grow and we can do it while we run our business. And even more so, it's amazing how much we're going to be able to accomplish in just 30 minutes a day if we use that time well. Weeks turn into months, And before long, we look back and we realize how far we've come with what seems like little effort on a daily basis because we made it part of our routine. That simple, focused, consistent action creates profound results over time. So the faster we get started on it, the faster we'll set ourselves up for success.